We're back here in the media room. Got kicked out of our spot. We may get kicked out of here too. Apparently, the arena closes. I've been here late before, so I don't know. In the past years, I don't know what's going on. But anyway, what were we on? We were on ETSU. Yeah. So here's what I have to say about ETSU. We were talking about Boyd just a second ago and his impact. You've got to see ETSU in person to really understand. They're huge, and they also, that's. I talked to a coach today, and they're huge. Like Boyd is really built and has great size, but also he was like, yeah, they've got great size and can defend if they want to, but they also take the worst shots in the league. And today they still didn't really take the best shots, but they went in. Ebi Asamoah, now he did take good shots today, wide open threes, hit every big shot. Kumar Peterson, you think of his first half buzzer beater there. He was hitting tough shots. So when they go in, it's good, but also I don't know totally that it matters if they can guard like that. If they're that physical and can really make a game that slow and that tough to score in, it's just not going to matter what they're doing out there offensively. To me, they're going to score enough buckets with a guy like Seymour and Parker, who's Jaden Parker's bag today consisted of like making a decent post move and missing it and just getting the rebound and putting it right back up, just being quicker than the guy. And I like that move. It's a good move. And Seymour had energy. We'll talk more about.
Yeah, one of the beautiful parts of this game to me was, one of the reasons Jack and a lot of other people weren't so high on UNCG was the depth that, they have Brown Jones and the Langleys and Atwell, and, that's about it. Well, it wasn't the bench's fault today. It wasn't the other guy's fault today. Like, they picked up the slack when, Brown Jones was 2 of 11 from the field. Jorium Saizano comes in and goes 4 for 7, and Tim Caesar goes 2 for 4. So, I mean,
All right, so the building is closing at midnight. They just want to say appreciate the media. Yeah, appreciate them looking out for the media, us guys. But whatever, we won't get too mad about it.
You kept watching that game. You kept waiting and waiting for one of the Langleys or Brown Jones to pick it up and like guide the team to victory, and they just never did. And then on the other side of that, Ebi Asamoah was huge today. Like when his shot selection is good, like Jack just said, I mean, he's got March Madness hero written all over him. So it'll be interesting to see the level of physicality with Chattanooga tomorrow.
Yeah, and so this is what I think going into that. And one more thing about how good ETSU was today. Brooks Savage looks like a genius. He did for a minute with Seymour had 3 fouls. They used all their fouls, and that's exactly what you need to do against a physical team like UNCG and a physical player like Brown Jones. He brought Seymour off the bench in the second half. And shout out DJ Hughes. He had a big impact today, especially with the foul trouble. I really thought he made had a huge game. But he brought Seymour off the bench, brings him in with like 15 minutes left. He gets 7 points or 8 points in a minute.
Oh, yeah.
It was unreal. Then he picks up his 4th foul. Then he comes back in and scores big shots late in the game. It
was the loudest 12 points in a limited play.
He had a great game. And you know what he did? He shot open threes. He kind of had mid-post ISOs. The worst thing, I think, I was talking to somebody about this, that they've done with Seymour this year is I think he's their best player. But too many times we have Seymour at the 3 ISOing, trying to go get his, like Woolbright does in the mid-post, but at the 3. And that's not his game. His game is shooting open shots, getting to the rim. Seymour's another guy that is crazy, way bigger in person and longer. Just a really good player, and I thought they used him well today. I thought altogether, as a team, everyone was used well. Kamari Peterson is so quick and had a big game. If he can continue to be, somewhat efficient and just have that impact, he looked every bit as worthy of being there against the Langley bros. Outplayed them both, which was crazy. Not something you would have had on your bingo card going into the game. Secondly, talking about ETSU's physicality, I was thinking about this, and I'm not sure. I don't know how much, because obviously they're going to be physical, but how much does the physicality mean against a team like Chattanooga whose play style isn't physical? Does that make sense? Because UNCG is obviously the Langley twins are shooting threes, and so is Brown Jones and Atwell, which they do. But Brown Jones for sure, their big buckets late are him playing bully ball, and that's something that Chattanooga does not do. Now they do a little bit with Alexis and Zedek. They did tonight, but I think that's more of a we're playing Wofford,
Right.
and Wofford's guys can't guard our guys in the post. But just in general, and it obviously hasn't affected them throughout the regular season. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I was looking at the box score of this Chattanooga game today, and I think right at or more than 2/3 of their shots or their made field goals were threes. So, and it's not like they're going it. Like there was a stretch where Jan Zedek was making plays out of the post because he would have a mismatch, and they would send a double and he would find the open guy. But they weren't necessarily playing inside out all that much. Like they come around, swing the ball around the perimeter, and like one of them just shoots a three, whether it's open or not. So it will be interesting to see how much that physicality does come into play if Chattanooga is shooting hot.
Absolutely. And yeah, so let's move on since we got to be quick today. For some reason, we're getting kicked out. Hopefully tomorrow we can actually record a podcast. We'll see. The games will be short or not go as long, hopefully. Let's talk Chattanooga since we're on that topic, talking about that game. Demetrius Davis out of nowhere, 19 points, 4 for 5 from 3. He's a guy coming into the year, and even last year, I've talked about this a bunch of times. NBA scouts beside me wrote him down. Yeah, JUCO KD, that's what people called him in JUCO, coming out of that the JUCO ranks. And he put up 20 against Charleston in the first game his junior year, and everyone was like, "Oh my gosh, maybe it is." He wasn't, but he was still a really good player last year. This year, he struggled and has shot it poorly. Been moved to the bench. Obviously, he's struggling with confidence. But one thing I said was, and something I put out earlier was that it's always good to root for a guy that has struggled so much, and he always stayed engaged. He always seemed to have a good attitude, and he had the biggest smile on his face today. You knew, that meant a lot to him and all his teammates too. Everyone, you can tell everyone loves him. Shout out him. What a game from him on both ends. We've talked about it on here. He's really made a difference he's made a difference defensively, and that's why he's still playing.
He was all over the floor today. He was coming out of nowhere for blocks. He was diving on loose balls. It was really nice to see him stay engaged. That was before he was scoring too. So it was a great game from him. Happy birthday, by the way.
Yeah, happy birthday to him. Big birthday game. And yeah, like you said, we've continually said how defense recently is why he stayed on the court, and he's really made a difference there. He had a huge block. I can't remember who it was. He came, from the other block, put it off glass. Has big rebounds all the time. He plays so much stronger than he used to, just in grabbing balls with two hands. That's something Sam Alexis too. Getting a little off topic, he does so well. That's what makes him such a good player, and why he had 11 on 11 today. Those rebounds, if Sam Alexis goes up and gets it, or he gets hands on it, he's getting it. And I think Demetrius Davis is playing a little bit like that. Randy Brady is similar too. That's exactly why Randy Brady plays, is because he gets every board that he goes for to get. And I thought he played well as always. He always just makes good decisions with the ball, and it's almost like why Brady was playing over Davis a lot of the year was because Davis can hurt you sometimes when he was driving and struggling with confidence. Randy Brady, and now obviously he didn't do that tonight, and he's been playing better. But Randy Brady, just to be on him, why he plays, even when he's not doing anything, Randy Brady never hurts him. When have you ever seen a game that Randy Brady, like, oh, he's hurting him tonight? Right. So shout out him. I don't know that he put up a statistical big game, but he's been good all year. And that Chattanooga team, they impressed me tonight with Demetrius Davis playing that way, or just playing engaged, knocking down open shots. If he shoots 2 for 4 next game from 3, that will do. This team can win the SoCon, and I'm confident that it doesn't matter who they're playing. I think that changed my opinion on them against Stanford a little bit. If he plays, what did he play tonight, 30 minutes or so, 26 minutes, that helps him so much defensively. And if he's also bringing the offense, I think that absolutely works, because that's why I like Furman against Stanford, because they have so many wings and big guys in guard and also score. If Davis can just knock down open threes and bring that defense, and he's probably even better than most of those guys defensively just because he's so gifted, that makes them not unbeatable, but that makes them where they can beat any of these other teams that we may have had doubts about before.
Right. Yeah, coming into this game, we both picked Chattanooga because they have like guys that Wofford doesn't, right? Because they have Vonner Huffs, they have Trey Bonham, they have Sam Alexis. They won today because they have guys top to bottom, because Honor Huff 3 of 13, Trey Bonham 2 for 9. and then Sam Alexis goes 3 for 3. You get 19 from Demetrius Davis. Jan Zedek was huge early in the second half, hunting mismatches against it was mostly Jackson Civils because Wofford kind of stopped fighting through screens and just kind of accepted the switch. Zedek goes 5 for 11 for 13 points. So they really spread the wealth today in a way that we haven't seen them do in a long time. So they were super impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. And one short thing on Wofford, because we got to get to the Sanford game in the next 10 minutes, apparently. I'm not mad about it, I promise. One more thing on Wofford is that, I missed the start of Furman WCU because I was in their press conference. Obviously, there's never that many people in a losing team's press conference when it's the end of the season.
Yeah,
but Dwight Perry's an impressive dude. Like, I asked him a question, I don't even remember, about their future. He just gives a good answer. Now, he did scare me. He was eyeing me down. It was strong eye contact, like where I was like, yes, sir, while I'm listening to his answer. It was kind of a little bit scary. But no, in all honesty, he just seems like a genuine dude. He's done a great job with his team, great job keeping guys there. And I assume they're going to return everyone, everyone that really matters. I bet it return. There's not going to be better options for anyone other than maybe Tripp. And I think Tripp seems like a Wofford guy. But they return everyone. They're going to be on the short list of SoCon contenders next year with, Sanford with maybe Furman, with Chattanooga for sure, because Chattanooga also returns almost everyone. It's going to be really interesting to see them next year and see those guys grow through another year of development.
Yeah, and Corey Tripp could, he didn't have the greatest game today, but he's just so smooth, and it's just so fun to watch him play. I could definitely see him making a leap, definitely in the first team next year, but, if he works hard enough, he could certainly be in the Player of the Year conversation by the end of next season.
Yeah, for sure. And one last thing, shout out Wofford fans. They showed out. That was a great crowd. Awesome, it really was. Like, you kind of knew Chattanooga was going to show out. Mm-hmm. Furman. Wofford was deep. They were deep in there. That was a really, one of the best ones.
Referees too.
Yeah, they also Wofford. Second thing, Wofford fans are also partially the worst. The people behind me were being like disrespectful to all the players, like chirping them hard. It was a little more than just a little chirp. It was kind of getting personal, but jokingly, that was just a few guys behind me. Also, they got the media in the worst spot ever. You can't talk. You got the band behind you, and then you've got the ridiculous diehard fans behind you too.
And then if you're sitting where I'm sitting, someone will inevitably stand right in front of you when the biggest parts of the game come up. So that's awesome.
Absolutely. The funniest part of the day was this Furman lady or something that's affiliated with the dance team somehow, videoing the dance team in overtime, standing in front of the media table. Oh, by the way, she's standing right in front of the guy, like where he can't see half the court. Who is the guy that's sitting there? The SoCon commissioner sitting there, and he has to he's missing part of OT and has to ask her to sit down, and she's like, "Oh, sorry." No. So that was the funniest part. She had no clue what she was doing. Like, she didn't even know the game was a close game, but I was just like, "Lady, what are you doing?" So last game of the day, we got probably 6 minutes. Well, I bet people are going to come in here in a couple minutes. We'll have to say something. But Sanford took care of Mercer. Mercer probably played as good as they could early in the game. But the thing was, and while we talked about Mercer being a popular upset pick that might be over talked about, Mercer had to play a perfect game to win, especially against a fully healthy Sanford. And we say that in saying that AJ State McCray didn't have a great game. Who knows how much he's practiced or not. He's been hurt. But that was always the case. Like, sure, Mercer could beat him, but they would have had to play a perfect game. Mm-hmm. Jalen McCurry went out a little bit sad. It was, it sucked to see him when he was so phenomenal to end the year. 4 for 14, was missing bunnies that you feel like he normally makes. They were carried, though, one positive, carried by freshmen. David Thomas and Jake Davis were awesome. And returning them next year, assuming Greg Gary comes back. And at this point, I think he'll come back. I mean, they had such a good finish to the year. I feel like he may have bought himself a year, but I wouldn't be surprised either way. And they got promise for next year. That's partially why I think he'll come back, because if a coach is, has a letdown of a year, but they don't have promise, that's one thing. But when you've got two guys in Davis and David Thomas, who was phenomenal the past 2 days, they could be all conference level players. You like to keep those guys on campus, and in this day and age, you certainly really can't expect guys to stay after a coach leaves.
Yeah, this game was interesting because, it didn't really turn into the track meet that Sanford wanted it to be until kind of midway through the second half. But Sanford, kind of overtook Mercer's brand of basketball, and they were the more physical team. Like, Jermaine Marshall on brand was the first person on the floor, every single loose ball. Achor was fighting people down low like usual. Garrett Hicks was great. AJ Staten McRae was solid, and then Rylan Jones is what Rylan Jones has been all year. He's just always probably the smartest player on the floor, and they just kind of took the fight to Mercer until Mercer got, it looked like Mercer got kind of tired, and then they turned up the pace and kind of blew it out of proportion. So really impressive one from Samford today.
And by the way, talking about being in person, the Rylan Jones jump shot moonball is even more of a moonball in person. It's kind of crazy how high he shoots it. And secondly, another guy in person, Nathan Johnson is a tall dude. He can really play the four. Like I can't remember if they had somebody in foul trouble or what today. Maybe it might have been a chore, but Nathan Johnson played a lot of four. That dude's tall. I don't think I ever realized. Like I thought he was more of a three, but he really can play the four. Altogether, Samford's they're beatable, but they're not. I wouldn't pick. I'm not going to pick against them much. Tomorrow, I did pick Furman, and I'll stick with it just because I did. But man, that's going to be a good game. It's hopefully Furman's not too banged up. I know Alex Williams limped off, but it looked like a cramp because they were stretching him out immediately after. It was probably a whole lot.
Trying to dunk at the end of the game.
He didn't get up there. It definitely was a cramp.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong, but they were. How cramp looks when they're stretching him. He's probably good. So hopefully that didn't gas him too much. But that should be an all timer. I think kind of like the past two Furman Western Carolina games have been.
One interesting trend I've noticed with Samford is Bucky's been getting away from Dallas Graziani early. Like Garrett Hicks played a lot in the second half, and so did Josh Holloway. And I don't know, it just seemed like Graziani got lost on the bench. And I mean, Hicks has been great. There's something to be said for having a 1,300-point scorer coming off your bench. But
Hicks was awesome tonight. I agree.
He was great. Yeah, he's just been awesome.
He was hitting everything, and that's honestly that's why they withheld that first Mercer punch, because he came in and knocked down a couple threes, had a layup. That's exactly. I mean, you think they would probably have won anyway, but Mercer played great to start the game, and Samford was right there with him, mostly because Garrett Hicks, and that's just the encapsulation of this team.
Josh Holloway, I mean, there's also something to be said for having an Oak Hill starting point guard on your team. I mean,
right.
Mercer tried to apply some kind of a press against Samford, and Holloway just had this effortless handle that handled the press, and then he has these amazing displays of athleticism, like the follow-up dunk that I'm pretty sure everybody saw, and just slashing to the rim. He was great for them today, too.
This will be said at some point by me on Twitter. Josh Holloway, the funniest thing ever is my player comp for him is Ja Morant, who he is the one who fought him and stuff, which is so funny. But Josh Holloway has moments, and like obviously he's not having a huge year. He's a freshman on a stacked team. He has moments where he just rises up, that athleticism, not to, I'm not saying he's Ja Morant. Ja Morant was a generational player, still is, and was so good in college, National Player of the Year level at Murray State. But Holloway has moments where that athleticism, you're like, wow, how he got up quick. And in a featured role next year and in the future years, if, assuming Bucky stays and he stays there, man, that's going to be fun to see him develop, because he is a player.
Especially alongside Alan Spack and some of these other young guys.
He's really, Alex Spack as well, who didn't have his greatest game today, but he's been good all year. Yeah, Holloway's a player. Anything else on that? I've got a bunch of stuff on Mercer, but we can leave them alone. Main thing was that they should have been better. We're getting here close to closing time. Promise tomorrow we're going to have a way longer episode and not cut off, because we're going to make sure what time we close, since they apparently decided to close today at less than like an hour after the game, which they never do. But B, we'll go somewhere else if not. So we appreciate everyone who keeps listening. Last thing, come say hi to us if you see us. Made my day. I'm the worst with names, so don't expect me to remember the name. I said this girl came up and said she listened, and I really appreciate it. And shout out her. Shout out anyone who we see. I will forget your name 3 seconds after you tell me it, so don't get mad at me. I've noticed that about myself, especially connecting with people and stuff here. I forget names immediately. It's bad. So, but we really appreciate everyone who keeps listening. Long episode tomorrow. Talking all the games, maybe talking some of these too if anything comes up, because this has been a failure of a podcast a little bit. Well, we still appreciate you guys. So we'll see.